At my wedding reception, my aunt pulled the DJ aside. Suddenly, our song cut off, and a recording played of my fiancé yelling, "I'm only with her for the visa." Everyone froze. I took the mic, smiled, and said, "Actually, that was my voice memo app." I was standing in the middle of the reception hall at the Hilton Garden Inn in Raleigh, North Carolina, still in my dress, still buzzing from the ceremony, when the music stopped. Not faded, stopped. Our first dance song cut off like someone yanked a plug out of the wall. At first I thought it was a technical glitch, the kind where the DJ shrugs and everyone laughs it off. But then I saw my Aunt Denise, my mom's older sister, the one who always had something sharp to say, whispering aggressively to the DJ. Her hand was on his arm, nails sunk in. He looked uncomfortable, like she'd cornered him. I didn't think anything of it until the speakers crackled back to life. And then I heard it, a man's voice, angry, loud, breathing hard like he'd just been arguing. "I'm only with her for the visa, obviously." It echoed across the room. People gasped. A few guests actually put their hands over their mouths. My cousin dropped her champagne flute on the floor and it shattered. I felt the air go cold around me. Not figuratively, like the AC kicked on full blast. Someone whispered, "Is that Daniel?" Someone else muttered, "Holy shit." I turned toward my brand new husband. Daniel's face was the color of wet concrete, flat, dull, lifeless. He took a step back from me like I had done something wrong. Like he expected me to start screaming or crying or accusing him on the spot. The room went silent except for the low hum of the speakers. The recording kept playing. Him laughing. Him saying something like, "She's too naive to figure it out anyway." Him sounding smug and cruel in a way I'd never heard before. Guests started shifting their chairs, not sure whether to bolt or stay for the show. My mom grabbed my wrist and whispered, "We can handle this later, go to the bridal suite, sweetie. Don't do this in front of everyone." But I didn't move. I didn't cry. I didn't look at Daniel. I didn't shrink. I walked toward the DJ booth. My heels clicked across the floor, echoing in the dead, quiet room. Even the kids stopped running around. Everyone stared like they were watching a building slowly collapse. The recording ended with a harsh click. The DJ started to stutter. I'm so sorry," she said. "It was urgent," she said. I didn't let him finish. I held out my hand for the microphone. He gave it to me with both hands like it was a dangerous weapon. Daniel whispered, "Baby, this is fake, I don't know who," but I didn't look at him. I lifted the mic, smiled calmly, and said, "Actually, that was my voice memo app." People's heads snapped toward me so fast I heard a couple necks crack. Denise's face drained of color instantly. And Daniel, my brand new husband, looked like he'd been punched straight in the throat. I let the silence sit, heavy and suffocating, like the moment right before a tornado hits. Then I added, still smiling, "There's a lot more where that came from." The entire room exhaled at once, confused, shocked, waiting for the explosion. But I didn't give them more. Not yet. Because to understand how we got to that exact moment, my wedding reception being hijacked with a secret recording of my husband trash-talking me, you have to go back. Back to when Daniel and I first started dating. Back to the strange things I brushed off. Back to the red flags I folded into little origami excuses. But mostly, you need to understand what I discovered and why I recorded him in the first place. And why Aunt Denise was so damn eager to blow up my wedding. Daniel and I met 3 years ago at a bar in downtown Raleigh called Little City Brewing. I was there with coworkers after a brutal week, just trying to unwind. He was sitting alone with a beer and a book, which already made him stand out because most guys in that place were yelling at basketball games. He was handsome in a clean, careful way. Crisp button-down, neat hair, soft accent I couldn't place. When he finally told me he was from Brazil, here on a work visa, I remember thinking it was interesting, not suspicious. He was charming that night, not loud, not pushy. He laughed at my jokes, asked real questions. I remember going home and texting my friend Monica, "I met someone who actually listens." For months, everything felt easy. He was respectful, thoughtful, patient. I'd dated American men my whole life who treated effort like it was a rare mineral, so Daniel felt like a warm change. He'd bring me pão de queijo his mom taught him to make. He'd send good morning texts every day. He'd talk about future trips we'd take. He remembered small things I told him, like how my dad died when I was 19 and how my Aunt Denise stepped in like a second mom, even though she could be sharp and overbearing. Everyone liked him. Even Denise at first. She'd make sly comments. Foreign men fall in love too fast, but she didn't push it. The first weird thing happened maybe 8 months in. We were cooking dinner at my apartment when his phone rang. He glanced at the screen, froze for a second, then silenced it and turned the phone face down. I asked, "Who was it?" He said, "Work call." Too fast, too clipped, I didn't push it. Then there were the secretive texts. The times he'd step into the hallway to take calls. The friend, I still remember the name, Marcos, who he always said was going through a lot, but never explained what a lot meant. When we finally moved in together, things got better for a while. Or maybe I just stopped noticing the off stuff because living together felt like progress. I wanted it to be progress. People don't admit how much they want their relationships to work, even when something feels off. The next crack came when my mom invited him to Thanksgiving. He said he had urgent paperwork and flew to Miami that same weekend without explanation. My mom asked if everything was okay between us. I told her yes. I lied. Daniel came back acting normal as if nothing had happened. No apology, no explanation. Just this cold assumption that I wasn't going to question him. Still, I stayed. I told myself he's stressed. He's dealing with immigration stuff. Give him grace. Then 18 months in, Denise pulled me aside after a family dinner. She said, "I don't trust that man." I rolled my eyes. "You don't trust anybody." "No," she said, staring at me too hard. "He looks at you like you're a stepping stone." I brushed her off. I told her to stop meddling. Then 2 months before the wedding, I overheard something. Not the recording yet, something smaller. But it planted the seed of doubt so deep I couldn't shake it. And when I finally uncovered the truth, I realized Denise wasn't meddling. She was 2 steps ahead of me. Everything started spiraling the day I found out Daniel had another phone. I found the second phone by accident. It was a Wednesday night, around 10 p.m., and Daniel had fallen asleep on the couch after a late shift. He was face down on a pillow, still wearing his work badge, breathing in that deep, heavy way people do when they're truly exhausted. I went to grab his jacket from the floor because I hated when he left things scattered everywhere. When I picked it up, something heavy slid out of the inside pocket and hit the hardwood with a dull thud. A phone, not his regular one. Smaller. Older, no case. I froze. It looked like the kind drug dealers used in TV shows, too dramatic, too suspicious. But the moment I picked it up, this cold current of dread went through me. I tried to wake him. Daniel. Nothing. He was knocked out cold. The phone wasn't password protected. That alone was strange. His main phone had Face ID and some ridiculous 12-digit passcode he'd never let me see. The second one opened right away. There were only 3 apps: messages, call log, voice memos, and one contact pinned to the top, M no pic, no last name. Just M, but the message preview right under it made my stomach drop. M. She still doesn't know. I shouldn't have opened it, I know that, but I did. The thread was short but awful. Lines like, "You have to marry someone fast or you're screwed. Just charm her. She looks sweet. As long as she signs the papers, who cares? Charm her. Who cares? Signed papers." My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. I kept rereading the messages like maybe I'd misunderstood. Like maybe they meant something innocent. But the words, "marry someone fast," didn't exactly have a lot of alternate meanings. Messages continued for months. Updates from Daniel like, "She's attached. Her family loves me. This will work. This will work." I felt sick. I put the phone back exactly where he dropped it and went to the bathroom. I sat on the edge of the tub staring at my engagement ring, wondering if I should call off the wedding right then. I didn't, and I'm not proud of that. But fear does weird things. Fear of looking stupid. Fear of admitting the person you love doesn't love you back. Fear of hitting the detonate button on your entire life. I told myself, ask him calmly tomorrow, maybe it's not what it looks like. But the next morning the phone was gone. I searched the apartment. Nothing. He acted normal, too normal. Like he wanted to overwrite whatever I'd done the night before by pretending everything was perfect. 2 weeks passed, and I felt like I was living with a stranger wearing Daniel's skin. I'd watch him cook, watch him tie his shoes, watch him kiss the top of my head, and none of it felt real anymore. Then one night I went through our trash. I don't know what I expected to find. Maybe a receipt from a ring store or a card from some immigration lawyer or something that explained everything. Instead, I found the broken shell of the second phone. He'd smashed it, on purpose, and thrown it away like it was a piece of evidence he couldn't risk me touching again. That was the moment something inside me clicked. Not anger yet, something colder, a shift, a switch flipping. I started watching him the way he had watched me. I started listening, paying attention, noticing inconsistencies, tracking his words, watching how often he texted M on his main phone and then deleted messages seconds later. And the more I watched, the clearer it became. Daniel wasn't marrying me. He was collecting me like paperwork, so I did the only thing that made sense. I started recording him, every conversation, every argument, every moment he let something slip. And eventually he did. He slipped big, so big I knew the wedding was going to be the perfect place to expose him. What I didn't know, what I could never have predicted, was that Aunt Denise was playing her own game behind my back. 2 weeks before the wedding, Denise showed up at my apartment without calling first. She never did surprise visits, so the second I saw her standing there in her navy work scrubs, hair pulled back tight, I knew something was off. She pushed past me like she owned the place. "Where is he?" "At work," I said, closing the door. "What's going on?" She didn't sit. She didn't take off her jacket. She just looked at me with this strange mix of anger and pity. I hated that look. "Sweetheart," she said quietly, "you need to listen to me." I crossed my arms. "If this is about Daniel again, it is. Then no, I'm not doing this tonight." She stared at me so long I actually felt myself shrinking. "He's lying to you," she said. "About who he is, about why he's marrying you, about everything." I forced a laugh. "You don't even know him." "I know enough." She reached into her purse and pulled out a folded piece of paper. She held it like it was radioactive. "I wasn't going to show you this unless I absolutely had to, but I think we're at the point where I have to." My stomach tightened. "What is it?" She pressed it into my hand. "The real reason he's desperate to stay here." I unfolded it, and my whole body went hot and cold at the same time. It wasn't a letter. It wasn't paperwork. It was a screenshot. A screenshot of a criminal record search from Florida, with Daniel's real last name, not the shortened Americanized one he used with everyone. And under charges, fraud, identity misuse, pending deportation review. I felt dizzy. "This isn't him." "It is," she said. "It took me weeks to find. He's been using a modified version of his name. Not illegal, but convenient. He's in trouble, deep trouble. And marrying a U.S. citizen fast is his only way out." I stared at the page like it would change if I blinked hard enough. Fraud, identity misuse, deportation review. No, this had to be wrong. It felt too big, too insane, too unlike the man who made homemade cheese bread for me and laughed at stupid sitcoms. I shoved the paper back at her. "You're wrong." Denise shook her head slowly. "I wish I was." I snapped. "You've never liked him. You don't think anyone is good enough. You dig for problems that aren't there." She looked wounded, but she held her ground. "I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to keep you safe. I don't care if you're mad at me. I care that you're not trapped in something dangerous." I stormed into the kitchen, threw the paper on the counter, and said, "Get out." She didn't argue. She just said, "When you finally see what he's doing, you'll know where to find me." She left quietly, too quietly. I picked the paper up again after she was gone. I stared at it for a long time, trying to make sense of the details. The dates, the case number, the charges. But the part that ruined me, the part I kept circling with my finger like it might disappear, was the timestamp. The record had been updated recently, as in 2 weeks before our wedding. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake listening to Daniel breathe beside me and wondering if anything I'd believed about him was real. The next morning, before he woke up, I searched his real last name myself. And the same record came up. Same charges, same pending case, same everything. My heart cracked open, but my mind snapped into something else, something sharp and cold. I didn't know whether Denise had told me out of love or out of something else, because she'd chosen a strange way to reveal it. She could have come to me sooner. She could have warned me months back, but she waited. Until the wedding was practically here. Until the damage was maximum. And I didn't understand why, until I discovered what else she had been hiding. My aunt wasn't just trying to protect me. She was trying to destroy Daniel for her own reasons, and I wasn't the only one he lied to. The day after Denise showed me the criminal record, everything around me felt unreal. I went through motions, work, errands, wedding prep, but none of it felt like it belonged to me anymore. I was just moving in a fog, trying not to collapse under the weight of what I knew. And the whole time, Daniel acted normal. Too normal. He kissed my forehead when he left for work. He asked what flavor cake I wanted for the rehearsal dinner. He talked about honeymoon plans like he wasn't a walking, breathing disaster strapped to a ticking deportation notice. I watched him the way you watch a stranger who knows too much about you. He never caught on. But what bothered me even more than Daniel's lies was Denise's timing. Why wait until 2 weeks before the wedding to dump a criminal record in my lap? Why hold on to that information like a grenade until the last second? I kept thinking about the way she'd said, I wasn't going to show you this unless I absolutely had to. Unless she had to. Had to for what? I needed answers, but not from her. Not yet. First, I needed to decide what I was going to do. Canceling the wedding was the obvious choice. It was also the one that made me feel like I'd been played. Like I'd been used and discarded. Like I was leaving the scene of a crime someone else committed. No, I wanted the truth. I wanted proof. And deep down, I wanted him to feel even a fraction of the humiliation he'd set me up for. That's when the idea formed. Slow at first, then fully, sharply, record everything. I already had the voice memo app running often, but now I carried my phone everywhere. I'd hit record as soon as he walked in the room. I'd leave it running in the kitchen while I pretended to scroll in the living room. I caught small things, nothing shocking, complaints about money, stress about paperwork, whispers in Portuguese I later translated. But then one night, 3 days before the wedding, I hit gold. He came home drunk. Not sloppy, not stumbling, just loose. Loose enough to talk, loose enough to brag, loose enough to forget to edit himself. He walked into the kitchen, muttering in Portuguese at first, then switching to English. I can't believe she still doesn't know, he laughed to himself. So easy, too easy. My stomach turned. He poured himself more whiskey, leaned on the counter, and kept talking to the room, to himself, to whatever version of Marcos lived in his head. I get married, I stay here. I stay here, everything's fine. I fix everything. I get my life back, finally. Then he said the line that ended up blasting through the speakers at our reception. I'm only with her for the visa, obviously. I stood in the hallway with my hand over my mouth, phone recording in my pocket, listening to the man I thought I loved talk about me like a tool. A function, a document with a heartbeat, he kept going. Her family worships me, except that bitch aunt. She's the only problem, but whatever. Once the wedding's done, no one can stop anything. That part, that last part, burned something into me. No one can stop anything. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, Daniel acted like everything was perfect. He kissed my cheek, told me he couldn't wait to see me walk down the aisle. I smiled back. I played along. And I saved the recording in 3 separate places. I thought I was preparing for the truth to come out on my terms. I was wrong. Because while I was collecting evidence, Denise was collecting something too. And her reason, her agenda, was nothing like I expected. There was a second twist coming, bigger, uglier, and aimed straight at both of us. 2 days before the wedding, I finally confronted Denise. Not about the criminal record, about her timing. Her secrecy. The way she hovered like someone waiting for a bomb to go off. I drove to her house in Cary without warning, walked right through her front door and said, "We need to talk." Now, she was standing at the kitchen counter chopping vegetables. She didn't look surprised. She didn't even look up. "I figured you'd come eventually," she said. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I demanded. "Why wait until the last second? Why drop everything on me when the wedding is already paid for?" She set the knife down carefully, like she was afraid to startle me. But there was something else in her face. Not guilt, not fear, something darker. "Because," she said, "I wasn't done collecting what I needed." My stomach dropped. "What does that mean?" She leaned on the counter, crossing her arms. "You're not the only one he lied to. He lied to our family too, about his job, his past, his plans. I had a feeling he was dangerous. And when I dug into his background and found that record, I had to know who else he'd hurt." I blinked. "Who else?" Denise took a long breath. "Your father." My heart stopped. "What?" "He came to the hospital 3 years ago," she said quietly. "Not long after you started dating him. I saw his face then, but I didn't recognize him until I looked up the record. He used a different name, but it was him." I felt like I'd been pushed underwater. "My dad died 10 years ago," I whispered. How could he? He wasn't a patient, she cut in. He was there to serve paperwork to one of our ER doctors, a doctor who ended up losing his license because of identity fraud linked directly to Daniel's case. Your father's records, his medical records, were part of the set that got compromised. He wasn't targeted specifically, but he was part of the damage, and Daniel was involved. I stared at her, shaking my head. No, no. That's not possible. It is, she said. I recognized him when the record search pulled up his photo. I nearly threw up. I realized the man who hurt our family, maybe even accelerated what happened to your father, was the same man sleeping in your house. My throat tightened. So you were protecting me, she hesitated. No, that's not all of it. I waited. She swallowed. I wanted him to pay, not just be stopped. Pay. I wanted him exposed in front of every person who believed his fake stories. I wanted him to feel humiliated the way our family felt when we found out your dad's information had been stolen and sold. A cold chill went down my spine. So you… What? You plan to ruin my wedding? Not ruin, she said. Reveal. That's the same damn thing, Denise. She didn't argue. I stepped back from her. You don't get to decide how my life falls apart. You weren't going to do anything, she said softly. You loved him, you still do. I needed a moment big enough that you couldn't talk your way out of the truth. So yes, when I overheard him at the rehearsal dinner whispering on the phone, I recorded it. My mouth fell open. That recording at the wedding, she nodded. It was mine. I got it before you did. I planned to play it during the toasts. The DJ was supposed to cue it right after your dance. I wanted maximum clarity. The room spun. So you were going to blindside me, I said. In front of everyone I know. You deserved the truth, she said quietly. And he deserved the consequences. I felt sick. Because suddenly I wasn't sure who had betrayed me more, Daniel or the aunt who claimed she was saving me. But the worst part? Denise still didn't know I had my own recording. My own plan. My own trap ready to snap shut. And none of us knew the real reason Daniel had pushed so hard for the wedding. A reason even uglier than the visa. A reason that would make everything explode. When I got home from Denise's house that night, I didn't go inside right away. I sat in my car with the engine off, staring at the dark windows of my own apartment like it was some stranger's place. I kept replaying everything she said. The criminal record, the identity fraud, my father's stolen information, her plan to expose him publicly, her need for vengeance. And underneath all of it, one question kept stabbing at me. Why was Daniel so desperate to get married now? A visa extension I could understand. Avoiding deportation, sure, but his urgency had felt sharper, more frantic. Like something was about to catch up with him. I needed truth. Real truth, not the pieces Denise had found or the scraps I'd collected. I needed Daniel to say it himself. So when I walked inside and found him sitting on the couch scrolling his phone, I didn't hesitate. Daniel, I said quietly, we need to talk. He looked up with that soft smile he always used, the one that worked on me for way too long. What's wrong, Mew Ammer? I sat across from him and folded my hands. Calm, controlled. Already recording. Why do you need to get married before the end of the month? The smile froze, then faded. He stared at me in this calculating way, like he wasn't sure how much I already knew. Babe, he said slowly, we've talked about this, the immigration deadlines. No, I cut in. Not that, the real reason. His jaw tightened. And then very carefully, he set his phone face down on the table. When did you start asking questions like that? He asked. When the lies stopped making sense. He leaned back, studying me, and then something eerie happened. He smiled, not the warm one, a thin, cold one, like a mask sliding off. You want the truth, he said quietly. Fine. He stood up, walked to the window, and spoke without looking at me. I owe money. My stomach dropped. To who? A group, people back home, people you don't want to meet. My pulse kicked hard. What kind of people? He didn't answer that directly. Instead, he said, if I get deported, I'm dead, it's that simple. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. Why? He turned, face blank. Because I took something from them, money. Documents, opportunities, and they didn't get what they paid for. Documents, identity misuse, fraud, it all lined up. And marrying me fixes that, I whispered. It buys me time, he said. Protection, stability. Enough to disappear if I need to. I stared at him, horrified. So I'm what, a shield? You're a path, he corrected softly. A way out. He said it like it was logical. neutral, not monstrous. He walked closer, crouched so we were eye level. "This isn't personal," he said. "It's survival. I needed someone American, someone kind, someone who wouldn't see the signs." It felt like he'd punched me in the chest. "Someone easy," I whispered. His eyes didn't even flicker. "Yes," my breath caught. Then he added, almost casually, "and if you ever tried to call it off, it'd be too late for both of us." Both of us, as in. He'd drag me into whatever he'd done if I didn't play along. A quiet, heavy realization hit me then. This wasn't just manipulation. This wasn't just a visa scam. This wasn't just a fraud case. This man had calculated my personality, my grief, my family, my vulnerability, and chosen me because I was useful. Not loved, not valued, just useful, disposable after the paperwork. And he said it all without shame. No fear, no regret, just cold strategy. The villain wasn't confused or desperate. He was deliberate, predatory, terrifyingly calm about the damage he caused. And suddenly I knew the wedding wasn't the bomb going off. It was the perfect place to bury him. Because if he thought I was the easy one, he had no idea what was coming next. The morning of the wedding, I felt weirdly calm, not peaceful, steady. Like every part of me had already burned, and the ashes had settled exactly where they were supposed to. Daniel thought I was scared. He thought I was trapped. He thought I was still the easy one. He had no clue I was walking into that ballroom with recordings, backups, and a plan cleaner than anything he'd ever pulled. The ceremony went smoothly. Of course it did. He needed it to. He smiled at the right times. Held my hands gently. Whispered promises into my ear. And I played along, looking every bit the enchanted bride. But the reception, that was the stage. What Daniel didn't know was that I'd already talked to the DJ that morning. I told him I'd be giving him a track to play. Under no circumstances was he to take audio from anyone else. And I handed him a USB labeled with our initials. Inside were 3 things. 1, the drunk kitchen confession. 2, his threats about what would happen if I backed out. 3, a simple note asking the DJ to wait for my signal. I wore the signal, a silver bracelet. When I touched it twice, he'd hit play. But then Denise got involved. She pulled the DJ aside early, probably thinking she was the hero. And that's how her recording played first, the one she'd grabbed at the rehearsal dinner. For a second, I was furious. Then I realized it was perfect. Her sabotage set the stage. Her drama pulled everyone's eyes exactly where I needed them. And the moment the room went silent, I walked up, took the mic and said, "Actually, that was my voice memo app." The crowd froze. Daniel froze. And Denise, oh, Denise looked like she'd swallowed a knife. I didn't give anyone time to breathe. "Since we're sharing audio tonight," I said calmly, "I brought something too." I didn't give a speech. I didn't scream. I didn't cry, I just nodded at the DJ, 2 taps on the bracelet, and the ballroom filled with Daniel's real voice, slurred, smug, unfiltered. "I'm only with her for the visa, obviously. She's easy. She won't figure it out. Once the wedding's done, I disappear. If she backs out, she goes down with me." A gasp spread like a wave through the room. Moms pulled their kids closer. My cousins stared. My mom looked like her soul left her body. And Daniel finally understood that the person he underestimated most was the one holding the detonator. He lunged toward me. Security stepped in. My uncle got between us. He kept yelling, "You don't understand. You don't know what you've done." But I did. I understood perfectly. I reached into my bag, pulled out a folder, and tossed it onto the floor at his feet. Copies of his criminal record. The identity misuse charges. The immigration review. Names he'd stolen. One of them connected to my own father's file. People backed away from him like he was radioactive. Daniel's face collapsed, not sad, not apologetic. Exposed, cornered. "You ruined my life," he said quietly. "No," I answered. "You picked the wrong woman to underestimate." Hotel security escorted him out. By the time the police arrived, yes, someone called them, he was already outside screaming into the parking lot. The wedding didn't end in dancing, obviously. It ended in stunned silence and my family rallying around me in a way they hadn't in years. Denise cried. I let her. I didn't forgive her, not yet, but I understood her. Pain makes people do reckless things. She wanted justice. I wanted truth. Our paths collided. Later that night, when the guests were gone and everything was quiet, I finally breathed. Not happily, not triumphantly, just freely. Daniel had tried to use me as paperwork. He thought my kindness made me weak. He thought desperation made him untouchable. He was wrong on all counts. The next week, immigration picked him up for violating his review terms. I heard through a contact that he tried blaming me for entrapment. Didn't work. Turns out the easy one had receipts. And as for me, I got my name annulled, my heart stitched back together, and my peace returned one long, quiet day at a time. Sometimes I still think about his last words, "You ruined my life." And it always makes me smile a little, because the truth is simpler. He ruined his own life. I just stopped him from ruining mine.